Yeah, thank you. I'm Sheni Jena. Here are some questions which related to the health. It's 10 questions. I would like to ask you those questions and you will be able to answer them. The first question, global health seems to be in the news more and more in recent years.
Yes.
Talk about what global health is and why it's important to pay attention to it.
Yes, thank you, Global. My name, first of all, is Shukuru Thierry, and I'm going to be answering different questions that you are going to be asking me. So, from that question that you are coming to ask me, I can answer in this way. Global health is problems, issues, and concerns which can be widespread from one country to another, and they can be addressed unless countries they can't be addressed unless countries cooperate on finding how to handle it. It means that those issues can be easily cross the borders of countries if no strong measures are taken. Again, countries have to cooperate and work hand in hand to handle this problem. This is because it becomes difficult to fight against this issue alone. So global health is important because it improves people's health right, as shown by the resource as written by board. Again, it contributes to the security of country because epidemic and strong diseases can lead to political instability. It also increases diplomacy between countries which facilitate global health. Again, it enhances globalization because it increases countries' collaboration between people and it can easily people can easily cross boundaries as well as diseases can cross it. Furthermore, it will help to boost development because only healthy people can do something to improve the development of a country. In addition, global health has to be in public good to ensure the well-being of the population.
Yeah, thank you so much. The second question, uh, disease can come to us in different ways.
Yes.
Explain the difference between communicable and non-communicable disease.
Okay, communicable disease is a disease which can be easily transmitted from one person who is infected to another person who is not infected via contact, of course, as the resource called the Global Health Topic has shown. The disease can be transmitted since one is affected and since one who is affected has some germs maybe of some diseases like HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, which can infect other via contact. On the other hand, non-communicable diseases is a disease which can be transmitted from which can't be transmitted from one person to another person via contact.
Yeah,
Example here, maybe you can say cancer, lung cancer, and the heart diseases. Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much. The third question is, let's talk about Ebola.
Yes.
Since I'm sure most of our viewers have heard a lot about that.
Yes.
What is it? Is it communicable or non-communicable? How
Yes.
do people get it?
Ebola is deadly and affecting disease which affect humans and non-humans primates, such as monkeys, gorillas, and chimpanzees. The Ebola virus disease are caused by genus Ebola viruses, uh, as the resource called Ebola virus disease, Ebola virus disease. So, Ebola virus disease is communicable disease because it is transmitted from one person who is infected to another person who was not infected before. And Ebola virus is transmitted through contact with the bodily fluid of the one who is sick or died with the Ebola virus disease. Here it is better to retain that it is not necessary a person or it can uh, you can be affected because of another animal which has died or which has that disease. This fluid can be sweat, mucous membrane in the eyes, nose, or mouth of that animal or of that person. Thank you.
The fourth one, what would raise a person's risk of getting Ebola?
Yeah, thank you. On this question, someone is at a high risk of being infected by Ebola when he traveled in the country in which there is an ongoing of Ebola outbreak. as shown in the resource called prevention. So again, a person at high risk when he has a contact with someone who is infected with the Ebola virus outbreak. Again, this person is at high risk when he cares for someone who is infected by Ebola virus disease.
Yeah, thank you so much. The fifth question is, so to prevent or at least lessen the chance of getting Ebola, what should the people do?
So there are different measures that people can use or can put in place in order to prevent against Ebola. Those measures are like to avoid contact with body fluids like urine, feces, live saliva. Again, they have to avoid materials which have been touched by an infected person's blood. Again, they have to avoid contact with bats and non-human primate fluids. Again, they have to avoid contact with a man's semen from a man who has Ebola virus disease, as shown in the resource called prevention. Thank you.
Yeah. The sixth one, outbreaks such as one related to Ebola can generate a lot of rumors and misinformation and even panic about what the disease is, how it is transmitted, and how likely people are to get it. Talk about the need for educating people about factor vice versa myths.
Yes, this is the good point. Some myths about Ebola are like people sometimes they think that Ebola is airborne or waterborne. Again, they think that it can't be sexually transmitted. Also, they think that sometimes Ebola is a curable disease. And sometimes they think that Ebola has vaccination, but it doesn't. This is like myths. Again, about the fact of Ebola is that Ebola is not airborne or waterborne. Again, Ebola is transmitted through contact with the fluid to the infected person. Again, the incubation period of Ebola is from 2 to 21 days. Again, it is better to know that Ebola has no cure, however, its symptoms can be treated. Again, it is better to educate people so that they acquire much knowledge about Ebola virus disease. This will help them to be aware of myths and reduce fear about the virus, as shown by the expert called Pete in the resource he wrote in 2014. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. The next question is, how about the complication that Ebola raises for the right of travelers and the responsibility of the government?
So,
Uh,
yes.
a catch Hex, for example, is a nurse from men who returned to state following a trip to Western Africa in the fall of 2014, uh, promptly had quarantine related to restriction thrust
Yes.
upon her,
Yes.
restriction that she was very much against. Now, briefly describe the difficulty of balancing individual rights and government responsibilities.
Okay, this is a good question. Of course, some leaders do not fulfill their responsibilities for the people who came to treat other people, especially in Africa, where there is mainly Ebola outbreak. For instance, when Kachi Cox came to treat people in Sierra Leone, she was discriminated in his society by the governor and the leaders of his school, which called Main University. So the governor called her carriers, and he said that he did not trust her. These are not the right word to tell a person who came from treating people. Instead, this is to violate her right, which is not good. This is bad governance. What they have to do, they have to look for the other measures, and this was a good way of showing a good leadership or the good governance. Again, his boyfriend was told to leave the main campus because he used to be with the Hickox. With this, the two persons plan to leave. plan to leave main university because of this discrimination. It means the people or that school have to respect the right of that person to study, because of course they have already paid the fees, and the government should not treat them like to avoid to restrict them in the quarantine tents for 21 days, by showing that they are not responsible, by showing that they have infected by Ebola while they had no fact. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. The next question is, let's talk about smoking and
Yes.
tobacco use,
Yes.
which is considered as a big world health problem and
Yes.
raises similar issues to Ebola in terms of right and responsibilities.
Yes.
Just about everyone knows that smoking harms health.
Yes.
What does it do to the body?
Ah, so thank you. The problem of smoking cigarette is that it contains nicotine, which is dangerous to our body because it causes the smokers to be addicted, as shown in the resource called "Is Nicotine Addictive," which has been written in 2019. When they don't smoke for a certain time, I mean those people who were addicted, they show the withdrawal symptoms such as irritability, craving, depression, anxiety, cognitive and attention deficit, and sleep disturbance. After getting those symptoms, they immediately go back to tobacco use. Nicotine also temporarily boosts aspects of cognition, such as the ability to sustain attention and hold information in memory. On the other side, the long-term smoking is associated with cognitive decline and other risks of Alzheimer's diseases. Again, smoking causes strong diseases in our body. Those diseases are like cancer, heart disease, stroke, lung disease, diabetes, as shown in the resource called "The Health Effect," which was written in 2018. The estimation shows that 16 million Americans live with diseases caused by smoking. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. Our next question, what about the second-hand smoker? Explain what does it and how it affects people.
Yes, for this good question. Second-hand smoke is involuntary smoking made by inhaling the smoke from tobacco of people who are smoking, as shown in the resource called Second-Hand Smoke, written in 2019. Though the smoke contains more than 7 million chemicals, 100 of those smokes are toxic, and around 70 of those toxic can cause cancer. You can see that it is very dangerous. Among the non-smoking adults, 41,000 adults and 400 children die each year because of second-hand smoke. Second-hand smoke causes stroke, lung cancer, and coronary heart disease in adults. However, the children can face infant deaf syndrome, acute respiratory infection, middle ear diseases, more severe asthma, and respiratory system, as shown in the resource called Health Effect, written in 2018. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. As the last question,
Yes.
people don't typically think of tobacco as
Yes.
a drug like heroin or cocaine,
Yes.
but the addiction it creates is strong.
Yes.
And isn't it? Should we think of tobacco use as a form of substance abuse?
Yeah, of course, it is a form of substance abuse because tobacco is used as a form of substance abuse, because when its smoker is addicted, he can face different health issues. This is because nicotine, which is the worst substance contained in tobacco,
Yes.
yeah, contained in tobacco. Nicotine is too dangerous. When the addicted person doesn't smoke for a while, he starts facing with withdrawal symptoms. Again, when he smokes for a long period of time, he can be sick with some diseases like cancer, tuberculosis, heart attack, and so on. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much.
so you are welcome.